Point 1 is about quadratic equations. We're going to review something that will help with what you're going to be doing in your groups here in a few minutes. First, let's review completing the square. We'll do an easy example, and then we'll step it up with a harder one, and then we'll finish with the ultimate one. The ultimate one. No, but it's on your test, so. Okay. So let's say we have an equation like x squared plus 10x minus 7 equals 0. And I want to solve this, okay? Currently you have two options, right? They are to what?
Split the middle.
Factor, which is kind of splitting the middle. Split the middle is one thing you try. What else? If it doesn't factor, then we usually go to the quadratic formula. Okay. We're going to avoid that, and we're going to complete the square like we did with those circles we did last unit. Okay, so if I'm completing the square, we put the x's together, right? And then, how do I figure out this missing number here?
25.
Half of 10 squared, and Saeed, you're right, 25. You keep thinking that way. That wasn't a diss. That was good. He's confident. Okay. And now if I add 25 on the left, add 25 on the right, and now we rewrite the equation. What's this going to factor into? You guys are on the ball today. X plus 5 squared, and this is going to be 32. Okay, and then now, instead of like factoring or quadratic formula, what I'm going to do is square root both sides. So then on the left, I get x plus 5. On the right, when you square root both sides, we get what? Plus or minus. And Patrick, you're right. 32 reduces to 4 root 2. And then what's the last thing I do if I want to get x alone? Subtract 5. So negative 5 plus or minus 4 root 2. So there are the solutions. We didn't have to factor it, and we didn't use the quadratic formula. We just completed the square, and there they are. Okay. Any questions on how we got that? Okay. Let's try one that's a little harder. Same idea. Yeah, like 4 root 2, plus or minus 4 root 2, and then minus 5 afterwards. That's fine. Yep. Okay. Elliot, there's an electric one up here if that's not working too well. I think. Looks like it's plugged in. All right, so we're pretty good at completing the square when there's just a coefficient of 1 here. So let's try something like 3x squared plus 7x minus, let's say, 1. Bless you. Equals 0. Yeah, that's actually a great idea. Krista said, why don't we divide by 3? It's going to look a little goofy, but you know what? That's going to make the equation more like this first one. So if I take everything divided by 3, I get x squared plus 7/3 x minus 1/3 equals, and then 0 over 3, that's 0. So we have fractions now, but we can still do now what we did earlier. So let's put the x's together. And I'm going to do the same thing I did. I'm going to try to fill in this number here. And what was that process again? You take half of this middle number. So I'm going to actually write it out because it's going to help. Trust me. Half of 7/3 We figured that out. That's going to be 7/6. Everybody with me? And then you're going to take 7/6 and square it, just like we took half of 10 to get 5 and then squared that to get 25. We do the same here and we get 49 over 36. I'm going to put that right here. 49 over 36. That was my mystery number. On the right, we're going to have the 1/3, and we're going to add 49 over 36. Let me just make sure you guys are good. Everybody good with what we've done so far? Yes?
Why do you take half of that?
Because that's what we did here. We took half of 10 to get 5, and then we squared it to get 25. The idea here is I'm trying to show you that we're literally doing the exact same steps. It just looks a little weirder because there are fractions involved. Okay? Any other questions? All right. Now let's, here we just factored it, right? So we're going to do the same. X plus, and then if you notice the relationship, from the 10 we put what in the parentheses? 5, which was the half number, right? So from the 7/3, we're going to put in 7/6 squared. And now that's going to equal, well,
61 over 36.
okay, so let's get there one step at a time. Before you got 61, you had to get a common denominator here, multiply by 12, right? So that's going to be 12 plus 49 over 36, and that's where you got 61 over 36. Everybody good with that? Okay. And now we do exactly the same thing we did before. We square root both sides. So we got x plus 7 over 6 equals plus or minus square root of 61. Do we know it or does it reduce? So root 61. What about root 36? 6. Bless you. And last step, move the 7/6 over, so we have negative 7 over 6 plus or minus root 61 over 6, which since they already have a common denominator, I'm just going to put everything into one fraction and put it all over 6. Okay, everybody good? What's going on?
The last part.
What part?
Where'd you get x plus 7 over 6 and all that?
From factoring this.
So you took half of that?
Yep. It's always half when you complete the square in here. Yes?
Don't you multiply the 49 over 36 times 3? You take the 3 out.
Ah, so there's a difference. That's a great question. Did we take a 3 out? Or did we, what did we do? We actually divided by it. So we don't actually have to take the 49 over 36 and multiply it. That's a good point. Because what we used to do before was write it like this. 3 and then x squared plus 7/3, right? So what he's talking about is if you did it this way. If you still had a 3 in front like that, you would have to multiply it by 3. Does that kind of explain the difference, though? Because that 3 is no longer there anymore. Because we divided everything by it. Does that make sense? Okay. Other questions? Okay. Here's the ultimate one. This is the one that is literally on your Chapter 2 test. Probably 10 points. So if you guys understand what's going on and you see where this is going, those are easy points on the next test.
Is this the math surprise?
So let's say we have ax squared plus bx plus c equal to 0. I'm going to put a star by this because this is the ultimate example.
The surprise.
All right. So think about the last one with the fractions and see if we can reproduce the same idea here. What do we do first?
Put the C together.
Divide by a.
You already messed up.
You could do that. I'm just trying to, yeah. But eventually, it doesn't matter. You still have to divide by a. So now we got x squared over, or x squared, sorry, plus what?
bx over a.
Good. I'm going to write the b over a in front of the x. Makes it a little nicer. Plus c over a. And then 0 divided by a.
4. I say 4.
For those of you in the YouTube world, my class is being silly. They know 0 divided by a is 0, not 4.
It's actually 7.
What? Come on. What are you saying?
All right. Now, we're going to complete the square, just like we did in the previous example. So we're going to fill in what's this missing number here. We're going to move the c over a to the other side, so it'll be minus c over a. And now we're going to do that same calculation to figure out that missing number. What did we do? Half of b over a, which gives us b over what? 2a. And then now we want to take that and square it because that's the number that goes in that blank. So b squared over 4a squared. Man, you guys are going too fast for me. Hold on.
So sorry. Oh my god.
b squared over 4a squared. And if I put that in on the left side of the equation, we put that in, yep, on the right side. Okay, everybody good so far? Now, let's try to factor this. The left side becomes x plus, and what number goes here? It's not b over a, it's b over 2a, just like all the other ones. Squared equals, and then, if I recall, in the last problem, we got a common denominator, didn't we? Let's go ahead and do that. So I'd have to multiply this first fraction by 4a, numerator and denominator. So then, my new right-hand side, I have a denominator that's 4a squared. And if it's okay with you, having negatives in front of things bug me, so I'm just going to put the b squared in front. And then write minus 4ac after it.
I know it's going to be.
What do we do next? We square root both sides. So then we get x plus b over 2a. When we square root both sides, we get plus or minus. The numerator, I don't know what the square root of b squared minus 4ac is, so I'm going to leave it. But what about the denominator? Do we know the square root of 4?
2.
Square root of a squared? Okay, good. Last step. Move the b over 2a to the other side, so it's negative b over 2a plus or minus
Square root of
b.
squared.
My gosh.
And if you put it all over the same denominator, what do we get?
All over 2a.
It's the quadratic formula.
So we just did a bunch of math and all you're going to figure out.
Yes.
No way.
Pretty cool. So yeah, we just did something that took a long time to figure out in about 5 minutes. Okay? So now,
So
That is awesome.
here's what I will tell you. On the test, it won't say example. It'll say something like prove or show that this, that this is the equation for the quadratic formula. So what are you going to have to do? You're going to take this equation and complete the square, just like we did here, to get to the quadratic formula, and that's it. Okay? Well, because we're better than they were years ago. Okay? How many people kind of understand what just happened here?
Sort of.
Okay?
Ish.
Good. If you guys need help or need to revisit this, you can check out the YouTube video or we can work on it one-on-one and make sure you guys get there. All right? Now, I do want to review, since we talked about the quadratic formula right here, a couple of minor details that will help you when you start working in your groups. This number that's in here, the number that sits underneath the radical, b squared minus 4ac, that is called the discriminant. Sound familiar?
Yep.
Okay. The discriminant, if we know what that is, tells us how many and what kind of solutions there are. For instance, if b squared minus 4ac is positive, then that's going to give us how many answers? 2, and are they real or imaginary?
Real.
2 real answers. Good. If b squared minus 4ac is exactly equal to 0, 1 real answer. Why?
Because it's 0.
Yeah, this becomes 0, so negative b plus or minus 0, you can just ignore it, right? The answer will just be negative b over 2a. And the last one is if b squared minus 4ac is less than 0, if it's negative, how many?
0.
0 real answers, or we could say 2 imaginary. Okay? Now in this unit, I know you guys already have some experience dealing with complex and imaginary numbers. If that happens, just like before, we're just going to say no solution. We won't deal with i's until later. Are there any questions on the stuff that we reviewed?
Move it over a little bit.
Is that good?
Yeah.
Sorry. Okay. Video recorded. It did not